after the talk I'm going to give a kind of different talk than what he did. It's a bit technical on how to build stuff. Mine is a bit more meta. My name is Mats, and my talk is about know your code. It will become a bit more clear later on. So I work at Avisi, and at Avisi I pushed Elm a bit. So much that we do Elm in 4 teams now on different projects. And because we were new with Elm, we had to start this thing called Elm Guild. And it's a thing where we come by each other once a week, an hour. We talk about Elm codes, the problems that each team is facing, and we try to solve these in a manner that everybody knows what other people are facing, and how they solve it. So that was my role in Avisi, and to lead that. I'm just a part-time, so almost a full-time thing. And then this talk arrived. So Evan once said, code is the easy part in one of his talks on ElmConf last year. And I think that's kind of true from the language point of view, from people that want to build a language and a community. But at Avisi, we have this language in production. So actually code is the important part. We're a consumer of the language. The code isn't good, then we bring it to our customers and it may fail or we can't maintain it. So it's a different perspective. So my talk is on the code. So my talk is about a tool that is not there-ish. It's about syntax. We all like Elm, probably. And around that there's this thing, what's idiomatic code? What's code quality? How do you educate your colleagues or how they would write Elm code? And DREAMLAND, something that if I lay in my bed I dream of. So idiomatic code. So I have here 4 functions, in 1, 2, 3, and 4. And my question for you is, which one would you use? I would like to see answer. Who would use form 1? See, one hand, I think quarter of the people. Would you use form 2? See, one hand going up. Form 3. A few. And form 4? Nobody. That's quite interesting that nobody would pick the 4th one. Later more on that. So the question is, which form should you use when you're writing code in a project? Which form of these would you pick to show your colleagues in a pull request or in future code? So look at the 4th one. It's just the plus and the x. In this piece of code, it makes much more sense to just pick the plus and the variable, because we're in a different context. So it's really hard to say what's idiomatic code in Elm, because it depends on where you are in your program. So the question, what's idiomatic code in Elm? Yeah, there's no answer yet. It's not 42. What I encountered at Avisi is that it depends. It depends on team qualities. For example, the code you saw here, the top one is more easy to understand from somebody that's moving from imperative programming language, because it looks a lot like Java or JavaScript. And the 3rd one is maybe much more familiar to somebody who comes from Haskell. So you should always adapt to team qualities, because you're not writing that code alone. You're writing it for somebody else, somebody that will maintain it in the end. The complexity of code, where are you in your code base? Probably a bit more. I couldn't enumerate everything, but when you write your Elm code, please think about these things. How should I write it for somebody else? Because maybe somebody else will not understand you. So one good example is I was working in college with somebody else. He was starting with Elm, and I was doing Elm for a year. And then, yeah, you compare the code bases, and he didn't understand my code base, and I was telling him, "You're stupid." He said some nasty things. You get the idea. He's sitting right here. So. But when you change code into an idiomatic style, one does not simply change some code without side effects. I'm learning this the hard way. So if you know a bit of Elm, I get these 2 functions: increment maybe, which takes a maybe, just pattern matches on the just or the nothing. If it's just, it increments it. Otherwise, it will return a square of 42. The maybe 2 which I believed was a more idiomatic way of doing it, mapped to maybe with a +1. And if it was not there, it just returned the weight default with 42 times 42. Trick question. Who believes this is the same code? 2 hands going up. Who believes this is a different code? 2 hands. There are 40 people here. How can only 4 hands be raised? So it depends on how you define the same. The second one is more concise. And maybe if you learned Elm a bit, then it's more familiar to you. But the difference is in the value constructed in the maybe with default is always computed. So now comes some hard stuff. I'm going to show you some compiled JavaScript. Don't be afraid. So this is the compiled JavaScript for the first function. It takes an argument. It will say if the P0 constructor is just. Then it comes in the else clause, and otherwise the else. And knowing JavaScript, you know that the else is not executed if you come in the if block. For the second block, the code is a bit more verbose. You see some A2 and F things going on. But the most interesting thing is that this part right here is always executed when you enter the function. So if we go back to the previous example, is if you have some really difficult computation here, this one is always executed. If you have this difficult computation here, it is not. So I was bitten by this when I had this function to cache some data, and I either got that cache data or I had nothing, and I always recomputed the cache data. So yeah, my program was really slow, and then I optimized it, I fixed it, and then it became a bazillion times faster. So idiomatic code, I think it's not yet defined in Elm, and I would like to start the discussion. I would like to know how to write Elm code who everybody believes that is good, at least a majority of the community. Be consistent, especially if you skill within the team. And be careful what you do, because not everything is the same as it appears. So quality of code, second topic. I got some questions. Would programs in Elm as a hobby project sometimes, or for production code at all? So have you ever used a random package? It's defined in the Elm core library. So there's an alternative to the Elm random package, and it states this. If anything is less than 35,000 something, for Boolean it always generates true. So your random package is not that random, but you require randomness of a random package. So instead you should use this package created by Max Goldstein. So this is knowledge you didn't have before this night. Maybe you had. I didn't have it for like a week ago. So have you ever used regex.regex with a variable? For example, if you have to add this input field and you let you use the type, and that variable you put into the regex to filter a list of items. Did you ever do this in JavaScript, for example? I've seen people saying yes. This is a really bad idea in Elm, because this pattern right here, it will produce a runtime exception. So imagine that this was a variable. So you get a runtime exception, and if you get a runtime exception in Elm, your program just stops. In JavaScript you can call all the functions, but in Elm you're out. People have to refresh the browser. So having a variable going into a regex.regex may be a bad idea. So, and the problem, the statement I have is we have certain knowledge that is not present. We cannot find it directly. That you should know when you're using a programming language. It doesn't only hold for Elm, it also holds for other programming languages, like the triple equals for JavaScript, or the double equals.
But isn't that just bad library design?
Yeah, maybe. So I think it started out, well, we needed regex, and then just pass this variable to JavaScript. And then this bug came, and it wasn't that important to fix. The chance is really small that it will happen, but it's not clearly stated in documentation that this might occur. There's somebody who created a package to create safe regexes, and it's no problem if you really test your code well, because if you just remove the square bracket, then you don't have this error. So it's bad design maybe, but yeah.
I guess the idiomatic Elm thing would be to use the types to kind of force it might return a maybe, or that you don't pass in a string.
Yes, somebody suggested that as well for the new Elm regex design. If you create a regex, you get a maybe. A lot of programs have to be changed though. So and this is really easy to reproduce with a fuzz test, for example. So I think that we should have tooling, a CI and IDEs that will help us with this information. You're doing something wrong. So for example, some semantic code. Take it a bit further. If you have this file structure, some models, some decoders, a REST component who get some data from a service, and a view. And you have simply defined your person in the models. Your decoders have a decode person, and you have a view person which takes a person with a name and an age, and you check if the age is above 18, then you have this text, and otherwise you have this other text. Maybe you have it even a bit better, that you extract that function if somebody can buy beer with the appropriate age. My problem with this code, and I see it a lot from people moving from JavaScript to Elm, something new that is place function at a random position in their file. My problem with this is that the code elements have distance. The view person and the can buy beer function, they have small distance, they're in the same file. While the can buy beer and the type person are distance is big, they're in different files. Instead, I think you should have the other way around. Have the logic for the type close to the type. So maybe you want this file. Just a module with the person and the functions that apply to it, like the decoders and the logic. My question is, can we automatically recognize this bad code? Because if you create a pull request and some tooling says to you, maybe you should move these functions close together and move this there, it will help us significantly, I think, with also the design of our application. For example, if you change the person, then you have to change 3, 4, 5 files. So now you have to change one. But what else would we need? Should we need a dead code elimination? Find it. So you have this variable defined somewhere and you don't use it anymore. You probably think, well, that never happens to me, but it happens to everybody. Something for big functions. I counted functions over 200 lines of code. There's probably no reason to not refactor it. Especially with Elm, you have the type system. Duplication detection, where you write a function. It's maybe already defined somewhere in your project, or even better in the ecosystem. So detect if that function to check if a string is empty is already defined in some package. And we'll tell you, well, maybe you should use that package because it's better and somebody else will maintain it. Or dependency graphs within the project to say, well, these files use these files, and they go back and you have the cyclic dependencies between directory structures. And whatever helps you. So I just thought of a few stuff, but everything you can think about which you would need to write better Elm code, you can define here. So I think code quality is hard enough if you do it right. And for now, there are not appropriate tools, but we should use the ones that are there. Not only for development, like Tolga just showed us, but also for the quality of our code. For now, I think we have to do it by eye and use our colleagues for code reviews. So it brings me to education. When I started with the Elm Guild, which I presented on one of the first slides, I noticed that my colleagues weren't writing that good Elm code. So then I thought, well, let's make something to do to make that better. I started out with a project called Elm Analyze, and tonight I'm going to demonstrate it. So I got this project. It's called Tsukuyami. It's a Japanese writer of a thesis, I think, that said how to organize directed acyclic graphs to show them nicely on screen. I started the implementation. Elm never released it, but it was a few months ago. And tonight I'm going to use Elm Analyze, as you see at my cursor, to analyze the project. I can run it. It will load the source files. First loads the dependencies. All the dependencies you have defined. It will analyze their interfaces. Afterwards it will load all the files, check them, and then it will tell you what you may have been doing wrong. So it says that you're exposing them in the domain module. So yeah, use the dot instead of specifying which functions you want to expose explicitly. And a lot more. So for example, debug.log. And unnecessary parents, which happens a lot to me. That's the output. You can also run it with -s. You can run the server mode. And then what happens is you don't see the messages. It just says it's found 41 of them. And we'll open up the browser. This magnificent web interface written in Bootstrap. And you see all the messages. Is this big enough? It shows you all the messages, and you can also open a file tree and to see what's wrong per file. For example, if I open this file, it tells me I'm importing all from the domain module. Maybe I don't want to do that because I have a variable or function in this file. I'm not knowing where it's coming from. My edit can help me partially, but it's also nice to see if it's coming from a certain module. One nice thing is that I have an unused variable layers index. And there's a lot going on here. So it's in the Tsukuyami file at line 115. So if I open up my atom, I see here that this is the line that's not used. So if I Control F, it's not in the file. So if I just remove it, I see there's not much left. You can inline this statement and just pass it in here somewhere and just remove the let. So this tool just made me realize that I can just rewrite a big let statement to something much smaller, which is quite nice. If I save it and close this with escape and just refresh it, you'll see that there are only 2 messages left. Another thing which you might encounter is that you have variables and pattern matching which you don't require. I think normally in Elm you would write an underscore and write a function to just optimize this pattern. So if you go to my terminal, you see that I just had this div with of the code I removed. If I click optimize format, remove the message, and if I git diff again, you'll see that it removed the variable. So it will help you clean up your code. The same happens, for example, for unnecessary parents. If I have this here, probably I did something before and then changed my code a bit, and then the parents stayed. Just remove them from it. It makes your code cleaner, and less code is, I think, better to understand. So, in a nutshell, that's Elm Analyze. I got somebody else working on a dependency graph. It's not yet released, but dependencies within the files can be traced back to this file uses that and this file uses that. And you can create a visualization of your files, so you can see how your project is organized. I'm not sure if I have downloaded an image containing that. Just start up Slack for a moment, maybe it's there. So this is a guy from Germany, and he works together with me for that. His name is Felix. Maybe it's here. Hope it's here. I think it's here. Fingers crossed. So he created this visualization, for example. So you can see that these modules, same color, they're the same directory. They're close to each other. I think that's what you want with modularization. You see that these blue things, they go around, or these purple things, they're everywhere. So looking at this code, you can maybe understand better how you define your project. So this is just starting this project, and I hope to to make it better over time. But the stuff I talked about, you can put in here. You can create a tool that will analyze your code and will tell you a bit. You can do this and that better. So it's all about improving your code in the end. You want to be proud of your code, you want to show it to somebody else, maintain it. So you learn, for example, where to put your parents. So here, a JavaScript program will probably do this. Put parents around the condition in the if-else case. Or put parents around an expression in your record updates. These can all be removed. So this tool telling you can remove these parents will also educate that person learning Elm, creating an application. Redefining variables. For example, if you get a variable in a function and you set it in the let, I'm not sure as a review if you should return in the else case the original model or the updated model. So maybe you're making a mistake here. Maybe you should say new module in the let statement to be explicit on what you mean. This can be caught with pull requests and reviews, but the tool tells you that you redefine the variables. It's pretty nice. So new stuff you can remove. I had a lot of that in my own project. Continuous integration. One person is already using this project in continuous integration to let the build fail if there are messages produced. So you take one afternoon to clean up his whole code base, and then you can now use it with continuous integration. Which brings me to the last topic, my dreamland, the dreams I have at night. I have a girlfriend, but yeah, I also dream about code. So my project is based around AST. It's an abstract syntax tree. It's an abstract representation of your source code. So all the white space and the locations are out, and only tells you this is it. And this allows me to analyze the structure of code. Well, if you have case statements, for example, on a Boolean variable, you don't want to do a case statement on a Boolean variable because you pattern match on true or false. You maybe just want to have an if-else statement. So you can analyze that structure. It can also fix code, rewrite code, rewrite code. Let's say I have a bad structure, move this code to another module, for example. This is my big dream, and if somebody wants to help me with this, I will have. I translated the maybe module from Elm core to a Java file. And this compiles and it works. And I use this convention to translate, for example, function to a current function in Java. And do kind of the same pattern matching as you saw before in the compiled JavaScript. So I created also a maybe class and a just class. So I can have the with default, the map, more map functions. I omitted a few because I was lazy. I can have the and then. But in the end I can write this not so nice Java code, I think, but it does the job. I can have the integer, I can have a just one. And I can say, well, apply +1 to it. And then I can say, maybe with default, apply 42 as the default. And then in the end I get an integer, and I can print that integer. But we're using this convention to translate the Elm code to Java code, or maybe directly to bytecode. Might allow us to run Elm on the JVM, which is kind of cool. And maybe we can translate a main module to something that you just can call from a Java function, which is pretty clean, maybe pretty clean. And that does your logic. I saw a hand going up.
Yeah, why not compile Elm into Haskell?
Yeah, I could do that. This is my dream. That'd be your dream. That would also be possible. I think that the type system in Haskell is a bit more flexible, so Elm would fit into Haskell, but not the other way around. But that would be an option as well. You can think of everything, and if you can understand the source code from programming code, then you can create everything. I believe. I hope. Also mutation testing. I'm not sure if you're familiar with mutation testing, but it's having your test suite, and your test suite is green, and then you take your code and then you mutate it a bit. For example, change this number 2 in 3. If you change this code and none of your tests fail, I think you have a serious problem with your tests because they're not sound. So we can do this with rewriting your syntax. It creates possibilities. Or something more freaky, I would say. Unison. Unison is a structural editor where, for example, you have a string, and this value can only be a string, and then you edit it, but you can't edit to something that's not a string. So you can maybe create a structural editor for your Elm code. Maybe there can be something for Elm editor that will enable this. So that's very cool. If you check out the project, it's really cool. And whatever you can think of, for example, compile to Haskell, or do anything else. But the thing in the end is that there's a lot of work to do. Things I wish they are not there yet. The same that Tolga has with this tooling that he wants to be there. It's not yet there. It's a new language. But join the discussions on what we need. Some people can't think of everything. You can join in and help people understand on spec channels and help dev what you want, what you need for developing good Elm code. It's not only about creating a great language. It's also about, for me in the end, building real applications with it. And call out for these tools. So if you need something, just call out. You don't always have to make it yourself. But shout out. So that was it for me. I'm still fan. You can find this project on GitHub, Analyze. If you have questions, I'm glad to hear it.
Can you show some of the code of the Analyze? Like, did you write your own parser? Did you build on the Elm parser?
Good question. This project started out as me wanting to create an Elm AST, and then it became this. So I started with this thing. It's there. It's package elm-lang. It's Elm AST, and originally it was from Bogdan P, but Jeff Mangels he changed it. He took it over. But this drops the locations from your AST. So that's why I implement myself, so I can do the highlighting of where things go wrong. If you don't have the locations anymore, you can only guess. So if you want to see some source code, I have to change directly to. So for example, one of the checks. So I have an analyzer check for list operators, and it will check for if you can drop a concat of lists or some other checks. And this is the main implementation from checker. So I have an inspector which has a config, and on an expression I want to hook on post order on the expression. So if I traverse the AST, when I come up again, then I want to inspect on the expression. I just pass in the AST, and I pass in the empty list. And on the expression, I'll pattern match on the expression. So if I have an operator application with ++, I don't care about the range. I don't care about the range of the left-hand side expression. I don't care that the left-hand side expression is a list expression, and on the right it's the same. So if you have two literal list expressions in square brackets, you can just join them together. And the same for some other kinds of stuff. So it's some heavy pattern matching here, but it's about visiting your AST, collecting some information, and then I just add some information to a context. And in the end, I translate those messages into something.
You created the AST yourself as well?
Yeah, I used Elm Combine for this. Elm Combine. Also written by Bogdan P. It was transferred to Elm Community a few weeks ago, and I now use that. So it's quite big code base now. It's over 8,000 lines of code.
Did you run elm-analyze on the elm-analyze code base?
Daily. So So this takes a bit longer. So the changed files are the compiled JavaScript. So if I run it, so it already says port 3000. I should fix this. Great catch, great catch. If I run this, it's a lot more source files. And then found 0 messages. And to show that I'm not cheating, that it takes the bot, just add some parents here. And then I can open up the browser. That I open up Emacs, now everything will go down. Yeah, so this is Emacs. I really like Emacs. So now it says no message, and if I refresh, then it will reload that source file and the rest. And it says nice parents. I can fix it.
Nice. One more question. How do you get from the browser button to remove those parentheses to your source code? Do you use ports for that?
I use WebSockets. So I'm running this Elm application in the backend, and if I run it in CLI, it just runs a program. But when I run it in server mode, I just start a node server and then starts a worker. And then via ports on the backend, I can say fix message number X. And from the front end, just say, well, this message I want to fix the number. So it will lock the other fixes until the first one is fixed. Because if you fix one, then source locations move and messages may change.
So what are the big, why is Elm on GVM still a problem, like a dream for you? Like what are the big problems?
Because I have to sleep at night. So now I focus on this project now, and there are a lot of checks that still have to be implemented. So some other people already propose new checks, and that's great, because I think everybody put their knowledge to the same place. It's nice. For example, EU56 he proposed the regex stuff. And I talked with him about it, and that became apparent in my presentation. But there are much more things to cover. So I'm currently focusing on this. Maybe a nice project, hobby project for somebody is doing that. I'm planning to make the Elm AST, which I created, a public package, so other people can use it within their applications. But for now, it's changing too rapidly, so it's not wise to push and push again over and over.
I just wanted to say that I think it's pretty cool that you're working on this. So
thank you. I spoke with some people about it as well, and I think a tool like this, it isn't that fast because it's written in Elm and it runs in Node. Maybe you should build it in Java or Haskell to make it much faster. But we need these tools. So you don't. If everybody starts to program badly, then this continues to rot in your application, and then you end up with a 50,000 lines of code application, and nobody has time to fix that. So I was also thinking about auto-fixing stuff, but then you miss the education aspect. So then people choose and just run the thing, and then they commit their code and never see what happened, and they continue writing bad code. So I will wait with the implementation.
So with the example you gave about the multiple evaluation of the 42 times 42,
Yeah.
that would be semantically the same, right? So it's like a compiler mistake, not so much a programmer mistake.
Yeah, it's a compiler mistake, but the statement I'm making is that this knowledge that the compiler does something with your code, it's not there for the programmer. So the programmer may think he's doing something better, and even with inspecting your JavaScript code, we might see that you don't want to do a with default with a variable expression. You maybe want to do it with a literal, because that's the exit case. And maybe a warning here. It's that you look at, hey, is this allowed? Should I do this, or am I making a mistake? Knowing the implications of that thing.
I'd like to have a tool that generates empty initial application, similar to if you type Ember new.
Mhm.
Is anybody working on this?
I think Tolga just covered it with Elm Create App. Create App. I googled for it. So, I think it's this. It doesn't directly have to do with this, but just create output. But you have here just create an app and you get your application, you get your source code. I'm not sure about the name, but there's a project going on from Jessica Kerr. She spoke at ElmConf last year in the States. And they're making Atomist. Does somebody know it? Is that it? Atomist. They make this tool to update your code. So they also do this kind of stuff with taking code, analyze it, and then just put a field in a record and change your review code, for example. And they use Elm generation for that as well. I'm not sure what they use, but I believe they use Scala for that. I'm not sure. Maybe I said some crazy stuff right now. But yeah, I think we need those tools. Not only this, but also all that stuff that will help us in the future. Also tell our customers, well, we can create apps fast and reliable. Reliable we already have with the type system in Elm and how it is, but also fast and with the appropriate stuff.
Like, where do you see Elm Analyze going further? And, like, what's the future of Elm Analyze?
I hope it will die. No, that's not a joke. I hope it will become something for the core team to pick up that needs such a thing. I won't think it will live forever because it's written in Elm and compiled and run in Node. But I think the IDs will continue. I hope the IDs will continue and the project will die.
I think it would be really nice if you could have it integrated with editor, like you have the these other tools, yeah, when you have warnings and errors.
Yeah. So I also talked about with the author of Elm Jitsu about this, and there's this thing called Elm Linter, or Linter. It's a package for Atom.
Yeah.
It's this one, and it provides a service which you can send messages. So I can, or somebody else can easily create an add-on, which will send messages from Elm Analyze via the WebSocket to that add-on and show it in your Atom.
Yeah, that would be really awesome because then you wouldn't have to like opt in for this by running this thing in your directory and then opening browser. You would just have it integrated with Atom, and educational aspect would be.
Yeah, so you have a much quicker round trip if you integrate directly with an editor. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, but for me, this was the easy way out. I have a bunch of messages where to show them.
Also, you wouldn't have to maintain the GUI in the browser because you already have the the thing in the
So my mindset was more about start with like SonarQube. It's a project where you can analyze a lot of software languages, but not Elm. And they have a really slow website, as you see. So I focused on creating this kind of thing that you see here with there is something wrong. Maybe you should fix this. But what you're suggesting is maybe a better idea to integrate with editors. But a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
So for example, for me now, creating checks is the easy part. I was on my way here in the car with Fatih, and he said, can you implement this check? And before we were halfway, and within 15 minutes I implemented this. So some checks are really easy, some things are really hard. But then integrating with something else may be a bigger leap.
Does the linter have some kind of API that you could
yeah.
edit?
But then it's something else that I have to maintain for now.
Yeah.
So if you wish to implement it, I'll contact you afterwards, and then we can talk a lot about it. And then you maintain that part, I maintain Analyze, and we're both happy, right? It would be cool.
Try that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you need any help in order to pull out the code for generating the AST into its own package?
If I need help with that?
Yeah, is it already ready to be split into a package, or
Yeah, it's already
are
in,
contributions wanted?
it's already in this directory, and in this directory there are some utils. It's also a write it to just rewrite it back to source code with indentation conform to Elm format. But I have to put it out. Sometimes I find that I have this piece of code which doesn't have range information where it is located, and I have to add it. And the AST is one big file. It contains all the types within the project. And it currently exposes all because I have to know all the types in the rest of the program. So if I add something in this file, it's always a major update. So then I'm on version 38 in like 2 weeks. Or lower. So, but yeah, it may change a lot. If it's more stable, then hopefully to release it fast. It's pretty easy to take out.
You said if you analyze Elm analyze with Elm analyze, you had 0 messages, but this should be a message because you're exposing all.
It's a great catch. My spotlight is broken, so I'm gonna stop this.
No, the message was about importing all. Not
No,
about
also
exporting
exposing all, but I cheated a bit. But Stefan, he knows. He's already using it in his project
Yes.
at Avisi. So I disabled the this is the thing I was worried about. When you have this big code base, nobody has time to fix it. I didn't have time to fix this. So the main problem is that I probably have this import ast.types exposing. This occurs 19 times in my project. And these are for the writer, for example, where I need all the types. And I can just import everything here. And it's kind of annoying. Maybe I add a configuration, just I'm allowed to import everything from this module. And then I can enable that check again. You can the verdict is you can configure checks, enable and disable them, so you can use them easily on the project.
If your AST also exposes comments and attaches them to the line next to it, I found that worked really well in introducing linters to my projects, is if you can individually mark lines and skip them in your analyzer, but then for all future stuff it will be enabled. That allows you to gradually introduce your analyzer. But I don't know if your AST actually
so like annotations you have for,
Exactly,
for
yeah.
suppressing warnings. Yeah, that would be nice. I have this concept called comments in my AST. So you have a file which has module definitions, imports, declarations, and comments. So there's not attached to an expression at this moment, but it may. I can parse these comments and say, well, this is a suppress warning X. Yeah, that would be possible. I can also scan these for words like to-dos or bad words, for example, to see what's going on with a piece of code. There's a to-do somewhere here in comments. Please fix this. Or there are 5 comments beneath each other. Maybe it's dead code. Maybe you want to use documentation for that. So.
Or if you have something that can be parsed to a noun code within a comment.
Yeah, that's another possibility. So I know somebody is busy with if you have documentation for a function. So you write and then you can do documentation comments. It will be always attached to the function. You can say this is my function and then format it. It's possible to put in 4 spaces and put an expression here, some code. So I can also parse this and execute it and check if the documentation for your code actually compiles, because most times that's not the case. So that would be possible as well. Yeah. So I think the last question, then everybody needs a drink, and for further questions, then I'm available.
Yeah, and I was just thinking this export all and import all, you could allow it if you're sure that everything exported is really used, and vice
Yeah,
versa.
so the nice thing is, can't really show it here. But if you use this, I can find out what's interfaced with that file and then match what function you should actually use. But if you define stuff like this, I think it has map 5. It does. And then refresh. I broke it because I stopped the server. So it should reconnect now, I hope. It's loading, yeah. No hard to refresh. So if you define the list explicitly, then you can explicitly say these things you're not using. But it would be nice to say, well, you have an exposed soul, but you only use this. Should I fix it for you? It would be possible, but you shouldn't get too lazy, I think.
That list is so long that it doesn't help me.
Sorry?
If I look at it, sure, whatever.
So, I don't understand the question.
That list is so long.
This
that
one?
I'm not sure it's helping me.
This list?
Understand what you're importing or not importing.
Yeah. So all the checks I have currently have the certain level of warning or error, and they're all the same. So one would be changed different shape between the different messages. The other one would be create a threshold for which if you exceed the threshold, then you are allowed to use import all.
But isn't this also helpful because now you know where map4 comes from? So if you're looking at your code and you think, so map4, what is?
So the thing is that here I have one thing I'm importing also. If, for example, if I import AST dot encoding, exposing this, then I know that range comes. Range is a bad example. I know that file, it comes from this module. If you read the source codes when doing a pull request, you don't know. You only know it when you open up your editor and have editor support. So that was the main reason to add this check. Well, that's why I found it important. I can imagine where you say, well, if you have the long list, just say, well, cut it down. But this kind of input I would like to see on the analyze. If you use it and you say, well, I don't like this, can we change this into something else? I would be happy to implement that. So, grab a beer, I would say, and let's mingle. So it's 9:15. I think we have something more than an hour left. The idea was to have some discussions with each other about tooling you use, what you like, what you not like about Elm, and just mingle. There's also room for, if you have something to show which you're working on a beamer. So, about it. If you have something that you want to show, just come to Thomas and me afterwards and then we can maybe arrange something. Thanks.